Yeah, I'm just, it took me a while to kind of find my way back.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready.
I remember once I went away 3 months, took me 2 months to relax, and then after when I came back it was like,
We've started
Bad.
already. We've started
Yeah.
streaming.
Well, you are it.
good to know.
Anything new?
Anything new?
Oh yeah.
Nothing new under the sun.
Only fresh and
Turns
new.
out we are.
All the time.
Yeah. So you come back to where you started.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us all about it.
Tell you all about it? Well, I will. Remember well. I don't teach you anything here, and I don't tell you anything. All we do is point toward and ask you to look to where we're pointing to. And you might resonate with something, and if you have, you will be able to speak for yourself. If you haven't, and you want to have a listen, be open to it, and something might resonate. And when you recognise there is an art to listening, and you learn that art, and you realise you don't listen from your head, from going through your ears into what's inside the head. It's a listening from deep down. Well, there's no deep down when you look at it, but what we call the heart. It's not the physical heart, but heart meaning the core or centre of your being. And realise you'll recognise what heart to heart is. Because in your life you come across someone who's had a sad story or some tragedy has happened in their life, and they've been writing to it, and you felt moved by what they were saying, and relating it some time later to somebody else will say, my heart went out to them.
You're looking this way constantly, so put it here.
My fault.
I know.
Evil. My heart went out to them. And when that heart went out, you know and recognise that because there was a heartfelt resonance there, or a relating to, if you like, to whatever we're saying. And that's when the communication takes place. Communication doesn't take place when it's head to head, because you'll have your concepts there which have been deeply etched into the beingness through years and years of repetition. And if they haven't been investigated, they'll still be there. And that concept, you'll have a concept about who was ever relating to you. And they'll have a concept about you, and they'll be saying the same thing about you as what, or thinking the same thing as you're thinking about them. And it'll be head to head. Nothing penetrates. And you'll go away with your concept. But when the listening is from the heart, there's an openness there, a clarity there, which will take in something which you might have heard a million times before. But in the natural resonance and recognition of it, you'll see it in a different light. And seeing it in a different light, there will be a different acceptance or relationship to it, whatever, or understanding of it, whatever way you like to put it. And that resonance or recognition will lead to something else and on to something else, and it'll continue to grow. And the more openness there will be, the more heart listening will be there, which is the natural functioning. And again, you'll realise and recognise, like anything you're doing along this path, you'll recognise it is constantly changing, it's constantly changing. And you've heard a lot of this stuff before. And you move to come here and hear it again in different ways. And the resonation is such that it's more, they say there's more clarity. I have a laugh to myself when I see somebody on Facebook or the web. Oh, he spoke with more clarity last night. Never stop to think, maybe it hasn't been any more clarity here, but maybe there was more clarity there that recognised it where they didn't recognise it before. And in a lot of cases that's what happens. But there is the hearing. And everybody, every one of you is hearing right now. Hearing, and there is a lot of recognising, recognising. In the recognising, there's a recognition or a realisation that this rings a bell. This is the truth. This is the way, this is the actual. And when you understand that scriptural saying, it's a cognizing emptiness, which the Buddha said. It is a cognizing emptiness. It is an emptiness that has the capacity of cognizing or knowing. And isn't there a natural knowingness with you right now? Do you have to invent it? Do you have to try and get to it? Do you have to express it? Or isn't there that naturalness, a knowing of what is? But it's seemingly obscured and lost sight of when we're related to the old habit patterns and things. But then if it's seemingly lost and obscured, it might come up again, in a thought, in a feeling or emotion, but the thought would be the same old conceptualized thoughts that are going on. It'll be a fresh and new thought. And you'll recognise, you'll resonate, and it's being recognised that this is what you've heard before. And hearing it again in a different light. That's the recognising we talk about, which is a natural happening. Obscuration comes about by the non-recognition. So it's a cognising emptiness. The emptiness that has the capacity of cognition. There's nobody who is cognising. No person, no entity or anything. It's a natural, spontaneous happening in these patterns we call human beings or persons or whatever we call them. A natural cognising. Because anyone who is not knowing right now, but that knowingness might be engaged in this, that or something other, the high, the low, or the pleasant, the painful or whatever. And the base of it, which is a natural cognising, appearing on that emptiness, or as an expression of that emptiness, you'll see it's the cognising emptiness. And the Buddha carried it a little bit further and said that emptiness is form. The cognising emptiness is forming all these pattern shapes. Cognising emptiness is form, we made the statement. And he turned it round and said, if you look at it closely, you'll see the form is nothing but the emptiness. The seeming form that's recognising, the you, me, the I, or whatever about it, is that emptiness also, because it's a form. So the form is nothing but the emptiness. So it tells you in Hing Sing Ming, and states it, emptiness here, emptiness there, pointing out it's all emptiness. But the infinite universe stands ever before your eyes. And isn't that so? Isn't it what you see and experience of the universe right before your eyes right now? It starts in this room for you and me sitting here. But you know it goes on outside and continues. But the infinite universe is ever before your eyes, no difference. Because it's been recognised for as it is, what it is as it is. And so the recognition and realisation, you can't get away from it. You've never been away from it. And it tells you in that little book, Raibu Gita, a little saying, that all this manifestation is like shadow patterns on the screen of stillness or emptiness. That emptiness we were talking about before is a basic screen in stillness in which this whole manifestation appears, which is ever before your eyes. And ever being ever before your eyes, it's a spontaneous functioning. It's constantly changing. Constantly, as I say and tell you, it is a transient expression or manifestation. Transient means it's ever changing. Like the ocean, they talk about the ocean and say the ocean is ever changing, and it is. There's always ripples, waves or something else on the ocean. It's constantly tides going in, tides going in. It's ever changing. But it's never changing. Has it ever been anything other than the ocean? No, it never was, I never know. So you get what they're saying now, it's ever changing but never changing. Still back to the basic essence of it, in its totality, in its wholeness. And that's what we talk about. Or try to point to the totality of everything. The one without a second. And they... Rah. The police. The one with...
Crossed his legs, so I'm a police to kick his ankles every time he tries.
The one without a second, not two. And that's another thing. You see, it's all pointed out in the ancient text, but we lose sight of it. When they say it's non-dual, they try and point out the non-duality by saying it's one without a second. And they put that one without a second because we take it to be a universe of many different patterns, shapes and forms. But if there's not one, can anything start with two? It can't say it's two without saying there was one before it. So it starts in that one and it goes to two. And it goes to dualistic, the many. The one becomes the many. And the many is this dualistic manifestation that we've got. But is it the many? Investigate and see. Has it ever left this non-dual state? People say, I want to stay in duality, I'm going to become duality. But how can they stay in duality? Can there be any duality if there is no duality? Can there be any non-duality if it hasn't got duality to manifest in? So though the two appearing are constantly dividing and constantly appearing, they never were separate. And just look at this manifestation and see how it's appearing dualistically. Is it ever separate anything other than the oneness? Can there be day without night? Can there be silence without sound? Can there be movers without stillness? Can there be yesterday without today or tomorrow? Can there be the incoming tide without having the outgoing tide? So you see, it's constantly transient and never changes. Now have a look at what expresses or experiences the patterns forms in this thing called mind. Now we believe we have a mind, or I, or we, or me has a mind. I or me, is it the true one? Is it the non-dual one without a second? It is not. It is a conceptual image we've got upon it, we've labelled I or me. Now can there be a manifestation if it didn't pattern, shape and form and appear dualistically? Look at your mind, as I say, this thing you call mind, and see how it functions. And you'll realise it's always functioning dualistically. If it's not past, which is memory, it's future, which is imagination and anticipation. Within that range, it's constantly vibrating into the patterns, shapes and forms we've learned and labelled. It's either good or it's bad, or somewhere within that range. The boundaries we put upon it are the good, bad, the labels, which we confine ourselves to within those labels. It's pleasant or painful, happy or sad, loving or hating, many, many other ways. I'm fearful, or I'm anxious, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or I'm not able to do that. And there is much greater power than what I am. We've taken that belief because we're told there's a higher power. a power called God. And we missed out on how that was explained in the Bible. When they say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, the Word was God. This concept we've got called God is just a word or a label. In the beginning, and it didn't begin, and there's no beginning for you until you learnt the words or acquired the words. Go back and see. Can you remember your birth? Did you begin at birth? We say we began at birth now because we've taken on the idea we were born. But there's no one that can remember being born. No one. They postulate there are some who can, but it's actual just the same with the near-death experiences. People think they experienced death. But did they? Do they know what it actually is? Without some conceptual going on in the mind which they can relate to now with words and ideas and concepts. When you can't tell me what you were in the first 2 years of your life while you were 9 months in the womb, and you didn't have any words. Did you say then I began at birth, or I'm going to do this or do that when I grow up? How could you? You didn't have any thoughts about it at all. You were functioning naturally, effortlessly and spontaneously. And the breathing, the heart beating, everything that was natural, the eating, the digesting and food being. No thoughts going on. So a natural spontaneous hunger. If you were hungry, you cried. If you were happy, you'd laugh or gurgle. If you did this or did that, whatever concepts came up, the appropriate spontaneous functioning would go on in that body, which would bring to itself through that, what's spontaneous function, a natural response from your parents or whatever, do what they could to ease that pain. A natural response. And like the natural response was going on in the body. So for the first 2 years of your life you had no words. Remember that. I had no words. What could I say about it? And you can't remember anything in the first 2 years of your life. How could you if you had nothing to describe it with, nothing to start with? So people who try and tell you they knew, it might have come about a bit earlier, at 18 months, 2 years, that time is a few months here and there didn't matter because it's different in a lot of people. But what was going on in that time, when you had no words, you didn't know. It was just a natural, spontaneous livingness. But then, what happened? Something came about that the words that the parents were telling you started to resonate or were heard. And you started to respond with learning or acquiring or picking up those words. And those words, being a vibration, they began to vibrate in you. And you learnt words like good, bad. Because you believed you were little Johnny, they told you were little Johnny, a boy. And you learnt words like I and me, I am. That's something to relate it to. Because you couldn't relate it to anything if you didn't have a label. I am little Johnny. Or little Betty, or whatever you believed you were. And that was constantly related to, that became the belief, because it was constantly reinforced by your parents at school, and you started to reinforce yourself, because that's what you believed you were. And then when you looked outside of that, into the pattern, shapes and forms before you, you looked a bit further out than what you saw before, looking beyond what was literally there. And you started to reason, that's not little Johnny, that's not me, or that's not I, that doesn't fit this little Johnny. And that's when you felt separate from it. And with that sense of separation comes, what was it?
Insecurity and vulnerability.
Exactly, you got it. Insecurity and vulnerability. And from that moment on, you became insecure and vulnerable. And the concepts that you learnt or picked up, the energy belief would go into, and you would resonate with a lot of them, and came to believe that these concepts were true. The good and bad that you were told the functioning went on with, was related to me. I am bad, or I'm not good, or I'm unhappy, or this feels good and I like it, and so on. And these concepts became energy of belief going in it, became seemingly real. And that was the bondage we acquired in the first place. The bondage of belief that I am separate, with that sense of separation and insecurity. We believed we were separate what from? The totality. The I became separate because when it looked past that and was saying there was a not I there, now before it knew that, it was functioning from the natural totality. Now there's something that I see is not me. That's something that must be far superior to what I am, because I don't know what it is. And the fear and insecurity started to arise because of that. And it's continued to arise ever since. Because our parents, school, society never told us. You were never separate from the beginning. You've always been that sense of presence, that presence awareness. You didn't need to put any I or conceptual image on it to add to it. But we've done that and taken on the personal belief that I am that little Johnny. This is me. And when the I is there, what's its opposite? Not I or not me. When I look out there and see something that doesn't resonate as I or not me, then I feel separate from it. I don't actually know what it is. So I've got to investigate it. Take on concepts and ideas. Because it shattered that sense of security I had when my parents, before my parents and everything got at it, sense of wholeness and completeness, set into the sense and belief that I am now separate. I am an individual. I am a person. And the sense of being a person came upon me. But look at the word person. We've taken on this word person. What is it? Where did it come from? And we learned that this word person, which you now believe to be I or me, came from an ancient language. A language which had everything, there was persons. Find out it was Latin, I'm told, or Latin or some other language. I forget now. Meaning persona, the mask. When I learnt this word person, I took the persona of the mask with belief that what I was, and didn't realise that's what it meant, and put it on myself. I've got this mask of identity. Instead of saying I am me or I am Bob, which was a pure presence awareness, that the natural spontaneous wholeness. Now I've taken on this entity. I am this person, this individual, this separate entity. I am this Bob. This is me. And with that came all the liking and disliking, the love, the hate, the positive and the negative, and everything like that. Because that's the way the mind and thought functioned. Added concepts, mental concepts onto the I-ness. Because you can't do much with I. So what we do, we add thoughts, beliefs, concepts onto it to make it seemingly real. Things which we acquire or picked up and learned at school. And that I am Bob, the Australian, a good fellow or not so good. And I've had a bad childhood. This has happened to me. My parents didn't like me or I was abused. I've had all sorts of things happen to me. All these concepts are added onto that I thought. And now this personal image, this mask, has got all these concepts on it, which are taken to be real and believed in, to give it some reality, some solidity and some substance. Now I've got a substantial entity. Me, Bob, the Australian, the good fella. And then everything becomes relative to that image. I've got something to relate it to. So I look at it from the point of view of me and what I've learnt the me is, and look at that. That doesn't fit the me or the I, and it doesn't feel good. So I don't like it. Well, this one feels good and I like it. And so the like, the dislike, the fear and the anxiety, the stress, the guilt all comes about because now I'm starting to relate it to this conceptual image, I or me. Instead of seeing it as it is unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. So it's just everything is patterning, shaping, including me and everything else is patterning, shaping, forming into these patterns. But it is all only that. Because that's the scriptural telling you what everything is. I am that. That's the Mahavaka, the great mantra, the great truth or word. And you know that in your language, because don't you say that is a chair, that is a carpet, that's Tony, that's Taz, that's me, that's the tree outside, that's the flower. We know it. Naturally, everything is that. But we put the label on it and taken the word or the label to be real. So break it down. Look at the word. Is the word the real? Where did the word come from? And the word, you realise the word has come from your parents, your school, or your society, which have taught you these words. So you realise every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up along the way. It's been acquired. It's not your natural state. Picked up, and the energy of belief has gone into it because you haven't learned to question or look at it, and it's become real. So now the word, concept you got about yourself has become real. And because it's become real, not realising that the manifestation, the pattern that you are, is transient like everything else in the manifestation. It's constantly changing. But now it's a static concept when it's related to this me. It's a dead image being related to and reinforced because it comes up again and comes up again, and the energy of belief goes into it without question. So I'm solidly and firmly in the trap of belief. If we look up the dictionary and see what belief is, and the dictionary definition of belief is unacceptance, it's acceptance.
Unquestioned acceptance
Thank you. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. That means we haven't reasoned it out, we've taken it closely as just as it's come in, taken it, accepted without reasoning it, without questioning it. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact. Now what they're saying is alleged. Are they saying from a truth, or is it something they've learned or picked up? They're saying it from their own experience. And where are you picking it up? You pick up the alleged fact without question. Because an alleged fact without
positive knowledge.
Without positive knowledge. Without accepting it as given it positive knowledge. So your question, got these. We've taken them on board just as they've come about. Without questioning, without reasoning. Just the same as years ago when we were told the earth was flat. We took it without questioning it and believed it to be so. Who would believe it to be? Nobody, because it's been questioned, it's been looked at and see it's false. But you look out there from the horizon, when you stand on the horizon and look out to where the sea and the sky meet, it looks like the end of the earth. It still appears to be flat. But you don't believe it today because you've questioned it and seen the falseness of it. And, you know, if you're reading it out, you can't believe it as false anymore. So this blue sea, you question the blue sea. You pick going down and get a bucket of water out of the blue sea, you find the sea's not blue. When you look into the water, you'll see it's clear in there, but if you walk away from it, it appears to be blue. And we believe that for years until you recognise it's not blue. Blue sky is the same thing. Go up 30,000 feet in a plane. Is the blueness pouring in through the picture of the windows of the plane? Of course it's not. Still look outside and there's still a bit of distance between where you're looking from and to where this further out where you see the blueness of the sky. A water and a mirage, a rainbow, all these metaphors I pointed out, the snake and the rope, the shadow picture on the evanescent shadow picture on the screen. You start to look at these things and see they're not actually real at all. So when we have a look at this I or me, question it and have a look. And ask yourself, is the word real? Have a look at the word I or me. Have a look at the word water. Is the word water, water? Well again, pick it up, you know you can't wash with the word, you can't drink the word, you can't swim with the word. The word water is not what water is. The same thing applies to air, fire, all these concepts we've got about these things, words we put on. So get to the next one. What about this word I or me? That I believed myself to be, which I've taken to be real. Anyone questioned this I or told me this, that and the other, I defend it. Try to keep it there. If they're thinking that about me, or they thought that about me, or they try to do this to me, I will retaliate. I don't like being done. But have a look at it. If the word water is not water, if the word fire is not the fire, if the word air is not the air, what is this word I or me? And when you look at it the way we've said, question it and you'll see, go back and question yourself and you realise it's just a conceptual image you've taken on and believed in and reinforcing by your belief every day and looking around, going to your schools, your parents, your things and the news and everything else, they're constantly reinforcing it too because they've never investigated and looked at it. So it seems like something solid and substantial that we're in bondage to. And that bondage is what we call the self-centre, the reference point or the ego. For we formed a conceptual image. I'm Bob, the Australian that's had a bad trot, a bad childhood, or is unhappy, or sad or depressed. Got this concept about what I think I am or what other people told me I am or believe I am. And I'm evil, I'm no good, or I'm unhappy, I'm sinful, or whatever. Have a look at the concepts you put around yourself and believed in. Were you born with them? Were they there when you started to learn the language? Where did you pick most of them up? From your schools, your parents and your society? Did you question them? No. You took them to be real. And you're suffering like hell. There's fear, there's anxiety, there's guilt, there's stress, there's jealousy, there's envy, there's unhappiness, depression. All these conceptual thoughts are rising up. And because they're dualistic appearances, they have an opposite. But we're not thinking about the opposite, which is pretty good, it's not too bad. We're focusing on the defects, to the exclusion of the goodness. Because we'd much rather try and clear ourselves of these conceptual opposites we've taken on are causing all the problems. But the very belief in them and trying to work them out is what keeps them there. So we're in constant conflict. Any conflict you are in makes you uneasy, it makes you unhappy, sad, depressed. That uneasiness, another word for that is disease. So you're putting a disease in your memory. And you're believing it, and that disease is constantly working on you. So the concepts are not making you feel good, and adding and building on that anxiety, that depression and unhappiness get guilt. All happening to this conceptual image, me or I. I is what we call the self-centre, the reference point, or the ego. It's all about me or I. What's me or I? This me or I is what I believe I am, this conceptual image, which I don't realise it's a conceptual image at this point. That I've taken the belief this is what I am. So that me or I is the reference point, and everything becomes relative to that. It's related to that reference point to try and make it good, bad. But relativity or relationship, isn't that duality? Relativity, relationship, relative to who, to what, to something or somewhere. That's duality. And don't they tell us right from the start that duality is a fiction? There is absolutely no duality in non-duality, absolutely none whatsoever. So knowing that the truth of that, why would you ever go back to the belief that there is? Why would you ever continue to try to work it out conceptually in the mind? No matter what the scientists and the physicists and everybody else are telling you, they've got different concepts and different ideas which might work. But if it's going to upset the belief in you, it's no good for you. See what they're doing and understand it can be useful in life. But to add it onto your conceptual belief or image, that conceptual suffering, and see what that conceptual suffering does. Everything becomes relative to me, so all your fear comes about from relating to me. I don't like it, or I don't seen this before. And there can be stress in it, anxiety, fear, a sensation which I label as fear, unhappiness, guilt or shame, remorse. A sensation. Where's it been labelled from? A past event or experience which is called this one fear, this one anger, this one depression. What happened if I don't put the labels on them? What's the sensation then? Don't even put that label on. Isn't it a fresh experiencing without a label? It's got no fixed idea or platform, it must move on. It'll change like everything else is changing. But while the fixation's gone, it's related to this conceptual image I have. And relationship is duality. And there's absolutely no duality and non-duality. So now I've got these beliefs, this conceptual image I believe myself, it's fearful, it's anxious, it's unhappy, it's depressed, it's guilty, it's remorseful, it's jealous, it's envy. All these things are constantly coming up. Constant conflict. Constant relationship and conflict. Conflict, the uneasiness or unhappiness is disease. So there's resistance. I'm resisting all this coming out. And that resistance brings this conflict about, and there's conflict and disease. That has been going on in my life for years and years and years. Constant resistance, conflict and disease. Not much room for happiness. And the little insights of joyousness and fearlessness and where everything's been going on haven't lasted very long. Because the constant chatter goes on. Back into the old story. The old relationship. The old relativity. See, it's a habit pattern that's been eroded or found, gorged into the mind and believed by this thing called the mind, that I am this separate entity, this individual. So it needs to be questioned. Whether you question it or not is up to you. But something in you might say there's more to life than this. I don't have to want to be bound in all this deep trouble I've been in all my life. That's keeping me limited, keep me powerless, keep me in a point of unhappiness, guilt. I don't want to be like this. And then the question might come up, is there a way out? And that's where, in the opening to it, when the heart opens to the listening to, you might hear something or read something or sense something or have an insight about something that'll take you on a different track. A different track altogether than the one you've been on, where the brief beliefs will start to be questioned. The relationship, the relativity will start to be questioned. And everything it brings up, the fear and the anxiousness and the guilt. And I might read something like, let's see, in a text or something, I pick up that everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn. That's a beautiful statement. Everything is perfectly resolved. I don't have to lodge into these things. If it's resolved in the unborn, and then I've got to understand what the unborn is. I look at it and I can't realise, I can't remember that I was born. Well, if I don't remember that, how would I know I was born? When was I was born? And I look at it and realise I wasn't born till the thoughts came up and who I am. But before I was born, what was I? The 2 years, the 9 months I was in the womb, the 2 years I was out of it, what was I? I can't remember. What was I? Everything was perfectly resolved. It was there in the natural state. I had no concepts then, no ideas, no fears. I was functioning spontaneously. There would be tears if I was hungry, there would be tantrums, there would be all sorts of things going on. Were they bounding me? No. Were they lasting? No. Were they relating to anything? No. They were just a natural, spontaneous living, a freedom from the belief. So there's been a taste of it. And that taste, if I go to that and everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn, and I think that, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. I might hear a statement like that. And realise, shit, all I'm doing is conceptualising. Bringing up concepts or thoughts. What is a concept? A mental construct. Always going into mental concepts. What if I don't put any concepts on it? Non-conceptual. Has the awareness gone away? Am I unaware? No. I'm not unaware, but I can't say what awareness is. But to express it, I've got to say, no, I'm awake or aware. I can't say what a label of what consciousness is or awareness is, but I can't negate it. It's not negatable. And that is what I am. That is what this thought I am is. It's a concept, or a word, or a label. And any other concepts I might have that I've added to are conceptual. All thoughts are concepts, are mental concepts, mental constructs. What happens if I've got no concepts? And if I pause the thought and have a look, and I can if I'm really interested in going there, I can't pause the thought, I can't do anything, but in the instance of looking at the interstate, I look beyond what is appearing in the manifestation and realise beyond that there is a silence, there is a stillness, there is an emptiness which I can't put any label, name or form on. But the label stillness and emptiness on it, but they're just concepts also, which are not the true. But there is something there which I cannot negate. What it is, I can't say. But I put a label on it, for the sake of trying to enter, and realise it's a pure intelligence energy, what I call intelligence energy, which a lot of people can put the label on it, God, if you like, or a higher power, or a greater power, or the omnipotence that just is. There are labels that can be put on it. But in that intelligence energy, the activity of knowing, intelligence is knowing. And if you look out there and see that this what intelligence is, it's not the intellect. It's not what you're thinking. As you see out there in the manifestation in nature, there are galaxies forming. There are stars burning out and stars being reconstructed or recreated. The Earth's revolving around the sun. The planets are moving around. Days moving around as night. Nature is going to winter, summer, spring and autumn. All this implies that the way it's functioning is a natural intelligence, diffusing every particle of it. And I'm no different from nature. Are you? Recognise you are no different from nature. Because if it's all one, you must be nothing other than nature. And realise how you are functioning. The same, isn't there intelligence functioning through that pattern? Isn't it breathing you? Isn't it beating your heart? Isn't it causing that thinking to happen and the words to come and the thoughts and feelings and emotions? Isn't it digesting your food, causing the blood to course around your body? It's a natural, spontaneous intelligence. So intelligence is a knowingness. And it's an activity. And what's an activity? A movement of energy. Any activity is a movement of energy. And the activity of knowing. Aren't you knowing this, knowing that is changing? Isn't the breathing, heart beating, translating, it's transient? It's all an activity. Intelligence energy is activity of knowing, so it's transient, it's not static. And see the transience of it. See that this body you believe to be you, something solid and substantial, realise it's changing right now. There are millions of cells dying in it, being replaced right now. Who is the entity that's doing any of that? Is it that fearful, unhappy, depressed you doing anything at all? Or is it functioning of its own accord, but that depressed you might be seemingly obscuring it? With all the conceptualising that's going on around it, it might be obscuring the natural functioning from being recognised for what it is. So would it be essential to drop it, get out of the constant thinking, rest in the natural state that's breathing you right now, beating your heart, relax into it. And they tell you, abide as that. We pointed out earlier that everything is that. You are that, I am that, this is it. That's our natural state, is the thatness. Not the body, mind or conceptual image we believe ourselves to be, no matter how good you paint that image. Say, I am the greatest, I am the smartest, I am this, that, and that. No matter how good your smart race is, it's not that. But try and take away the thatness that you are. And that's just a concept. You'll realise you can't, so if you can't, what are you going to do? Then you can follow the scriptural saying, abide as that. Just rest into it, abide as it. Go to sleep as that, wake up as that. Throughout the day, recognise as frequently as possible. That is what I am. That is what I am. And the I am is that sense of presence, translating as a word or a thought I am. What is translated up till this time, if you haven't recognised it, it's translated as I am this body-mind. I am this separate entity. I am this individual. Now, recognise and relate it to its true nature. I am that pure awareness that's never been contaminated or corrupted by any concepts or ideas that are images or thoughts or feelings or emotions that have come upon it. I am released from that bondage of self. And resting, let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. Now take that, rest or relax in the uncontrived, where you're not trying to alter it, modify it, or contrive it in some way or other way. And it's the singularity, it's only the one. And it must express as a singularity. And the sensing and seeing and living and believing is that. That's enough for tonight. We started with nothing and got a few here, you've heard it. Now, the cat knows it is that. It's got no conceptual image about itself.
Unborn Buddha mind.
Yeah. Got any questions, doubts or arguments? Bring them out. What's blocking it? You think there's something blocking it? Or you think you've got to wait some time to see it? Or you're going to go to the next book? Or the next satsang? Or the next talk or whatever? Or the next meditation? You don't start with the fact that you are that right now. And continue to recognise or remain as that as frequently as possible. Heavenly belief, as soon as you get to some concept or some idea, it's going to take you away, keep you in the shadow. And see, recognise it has done that all your life. If you recognised that years ago, you wouldn't have had to come here. If I'd have recognised it years ago, I probably wouldn't have to talk about it today. And that's how it's happening. It took me years and years, this particular pattern, to see through it. And whether I'm conceptualising it rightly or wrongly now, it doesn't matter. What's coming out, I can never be knocked off that perch of understanding or knowing I am that. Nobody knows, no matter how erudite they are and how whatever thoughts and concepts and ideas they can come up with, they can't alter that fact. And pure knowing that I am, and realisation and recognising. And I can say that for you, all of you, whether you believe it or not. You are that. You couldn't be anything else.
So you have no thoughts? You don't have any thoughts? You have thoughts?
Of course. Thinking is a natural process of the functioning. But the thoughts are not believed in. They come up spontaneously. And insights might come up with those thoughts, which are natural ways to see it, what to do next or what to say next. As a little insight, and it will unfold of itself spontaneously and naturally. But if the thinking gets into the conceptual imaging like it did before, it's soon recognised, and the recognition of it is a letting go of it. It's cognised already in nature, but it needs to be recognised because it gets obscured. But the thought that is not fixated on will come and go, as you see. Where are yesterday's thoughts now? Haven't they gone? And you need to recall them if you want to bring them back. And fresher thoughts will be coming up right now. Might be thoughts relating to that image you've got about yourself, or there might be spontaneous, natural clarity of seeing. But the mind is not the enemy. That's what you need to understand. Thought is not the enemy, but you understand what they are in their reality. The word's not the real, the concept or the belief in them is not the actuality. And thoughts function dualistically. That's their pattern, functioning dualistically. But the word is not the real, and they're never the thing. So you'll know what is as it is. Recognise it spontaneously and naturally. What's the basic thought you know right now?
No.
Hmm?
Sorry?
What is the basic thought you know right now?
That I'm in this room? That I'm in this room? Listening to
I am. That basic thing, without putting it in this memory. I am. But question that I am and see if you believe you don't have this body mind or you are the reality. Make a big difference, doesn't it? You're taking the boundaries off that particular image and you're focused on the totality. If you're focused in the totality is there to come back in and take you out of situations that might not be right to be in, or move wherever you need to move, because you've got the universe behind you. But see how isolated and alone you are when you're focusing to that idea of a separate entity. And the world can be against you, and it does turn against you because you've isolated yourself. Squeeze yourself into a little conceptual image, pattern.
That's good. That is good. That you've squeezed yourself into a little conceptual image. And
Well, have a look and see.
Yeah.
Isn't it a fact?
when you're everything, I guess you're...
Bound in it. Bound in the idea that you're a separate entity.
Mm.
And we put that on ourselves and we say, after all, I'm only human. And so, confine yourself into the conceptual image of what a human being is. But take the word human off. Take the word supreme off the supreme being or God. Separate the beingness in this room without putting those concepts on. As a non-conceptual awareness, you are the totality.
The cat keeps complaining. Why stop?
And that's the natural service.
Yeah.
Little does it realise, I've got a nice big bag for it with a few rocks in it. Gonna take a walk by the river.
Poor puss.
Julia may be listening. You watch out.
A little walk by the river, kitty cat, and don't you forget it. Doesn't take a notice of the word.
Yeah, he knows the truth.
Yeah.
He
Don't
doesn't
seem too
believe.
worried.
He knows there is no future.
He certainly does. And he knows to dig his claws and fangs into me if he doesn't like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the intelligence, pure intelligence. He made us as servants. That's his sovereign. He is a Lord. He's bullying Bob to open certain door if he wants to check things. Yeah, and he's obedient. Bob is very obedient. Serve the cat.
Just like the animals, just like the wind, because Dad used to say, chucking the cat out was like pissing into the wind. But they're just as ephemeral as, or just as solid as each other.
You got any questions or doubts or arguments, or have you heard of it before? Give us what you're seeing or hearing or understanding yourself. Put it out there because people might need to hear what you've got to say.
So you're basically saying that we're all one, basically.
Yeah.
We're all got God inside of us. We're all source.
You all are God, if you like to
We
call
are
it.
God. Yeah.
The Lord thy God is one God. There is nothing other. They tell you that in the Hindu, in the Jewish religion. Yeah? Muslims say there is no God but God.
That's right.
Allah is his name. That's the label we put on, don't we?
That's right. That's true.
Christians say, I and the Father are one, but the Father is greater than I, that's Christ said.
And you can call it God, or you can basically just call it life.
Yeah.
It's like Bob sometimes calls that intelligence energy, because it's life. Like when you think about every equipment, electrical equipment or computer, it has the brain, it has the hardware, it has the software, it operates, and it depends on electricity. So electricity is
Real
the God.
power.
This is the real power. So we are run through the
We're
same
energy,
stuff.
so we're
Yeah.
energy. Yeah.
And that energy is not only running the body, beating the heart, making seeing possible, but it also forms as the body. So it's not that there is a body in mechanical dead form and the energy that makes it alive. That very energy vibrates very quickly and creates atoms and creates the body and creates this transmitter receiver that is working on the frequency of light through the eyes, frequency of sounds through the ears, and the frequency of thoughts. So really every object in seeing is just a content. Object in thinking is just a content. But this is the same energy that is just playing with itself.
They call that energy Shakti. Shakti.
Shakti.
Shakti, yeah, the
Shiva
dynamic.
Shakti. You've heard Shiva is the static aspect? Shiva, right. Shakti is his concept of female, because Shakti vibrates and dances in that movement within the Shiva. It's formed within the Shiva of itself. It vibrates and the world appears. So this world is the dance of Shiva, or Shakti. I've got one in my pocket. Rough.
Legs, Bob. Legs.
Uh-oh.
I can't kick you because the camera is in the way.
Not in bondage here.
But look at that smile.
Yeah.
Not unhappy.
No. It's the way we always says, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. But there isn't one.
Yeah.
So where can happiness lodge? If there's no self to be unhappy. And that's where we make the big mistake. We think it's a personal self. But it's not. It's a one self. It's patterning, forming, expressing as the person and everything else. So it's self-aware. It's not this personal self that's going to become aware. It's self-aware. The awareness, the self is in that awareness. The self is in the seeing. The self is in the hearing, self-seeing, self-shining. They tell you, self-shining, ever-fresh presence awareness. It's in that presence aware. It's the light that shines out of your eyes. Light of, or the love light in your eyes, as the song says. It's that which shines out of it. Light comes in through the umbilical cord when you're a little baby and shines out of the aperture of your eyes. You know? When something dies, you look at their eyes and they glaze over straight away. The light of life goes out of them. And that is that light of life that's shining out of you. We don't recognise it as that. Treat it as that. And forget what it's looking at. But be the self-shining present awareness that comes out of your eyes. And people will recognise that light. And want to know what it is, why it's there. And you'll be able to tell them.
Because I have no self.
Yeah. Christ told you that I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, I am the light. Let your light shine, so shine before men they may see your good works and glorify that Father or that essence that's called in light, that is in heaven. Heaven is that light shining within you. It's not some place out there.
Earlier, Bob, you were talking about intelligence energy. And you can really see, well, I'm starting to see how that is the real driver behind everything.
Yes.
You know, we think as humans we do it all and make this happen and make that happen, but it's that drive behind everything that's the real power.
Yeah. And we think it is God. But in the beginning was with the Word was God. That's all God is a Word. A label we put on this intelligence energy that's functioning. Because we look for some power greater than ourselves. We forget what they tell us. It's omnipresence, omnipotence and omniscience. Total presence, total power, total intelligence. If it's total power, how many powers can there be? The one power that you are, that power within you that's breathing and beating your heart is the same power that's rolling the earth around the sun. It's causing the seasons coming, causing the tsunami to happen, causing the volcano to explode, the planet to form. That same power. So you're going to try and change it, or you're going to let it express as it starts expressing.
Sometimes people think it can be like, has to be a certain way. So like I was at a retreat before when I first came across non-duality. You know, some of us walking around like, oh, I've got to walk really slowly to be more aware, or, you know, and you just look at the cats, they're just darting around doing whatever.
Yeah.
Just whatever pulls them.
Yeah, really, when you really take yourself off the way, you behave naturally and you can't be bothered which way, because pretending and doing something against the pattern is totally... It comes from the concept that I should be different, I should become, I should try. Try and meditate more, be more holy, don't use swear words.
Think less.
Think less, yeah.
Or am I who is consciousness? All this is fictitious like a dream. What does it matter what I say, think or do? Thinking not, I throw my cap in the air and dance for joy. That's what the scriptural saying is. Thinkingness, it doesn't say you abolish thinking, but thinking, nothing matters. And when you got that idea, what's matter? All this seeming solidity is matter. What's the essence of matter? Is spirit. And spirit or essence doesn't know matter. Though spirit seemingly solidifies and forms as matter. So what does it matter when you recognise that matter is not solidified? It's such solidified spirit that's never changed its true nature. Solidity is like a shadow picture on the wall, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's really just the level that the little eyes can telescope into, and then the level that little receivers can do in various parts of the head, and then the speed at which they can pop up. You know, it's just all a bunch of mechanisms clunking around.
It's all fired by the same intelligence energy. It's all vibrating patterns of energy that's appearing in all the patterns. So go to the background. Everything is that. It's that one essence, it's patterning shape. So you can divide it into minuscule particles and just whir and do everything with it, but it never changes true nature.
So what's the point of this physical plane, this life on this physical plane?
Well, what would you be without it?
Well, I mean, when your body dies, we're still going to vibrate, but in a different way.
It's going to be reabsorbed in the essence. And you'll never get the same pattern out of it again. Everything will be a fresh and new pattern. So there's no reincarnation or coming back as this, that and that. Everything is fresh and new expression. But it comes up just like your thoughts. Where do your thoughts go? They're reabsorbed back into it.
So what's the point, though, of being here as a vibration?
Well, if it was in its natural spontaneous without vibrating into patterns of soul, it'd be, what would it be? Nothingness there.
Void.
Would you like to be there? Or would you like to... While you're here, don't you want to be something and doing something and acting and enjoying and loving to be? Let that flourish in its fullness. But we put the limitations on that, and then we get, what's the point? And recognise if there is a point, you're in trouble. But there's no point to the totality.
Best answer is why not? Because it is what it is.
Yeah,
And it is because it is.
Can't do nothing about it.
Yeah, so there's no answer to the question, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some answers. Like the answers that why do we call creator creator? Because it's creative. That's why it creates. Or expression. This is the only way to have a glimpse of itself. That the consciousness or the awareness can see itself as the other. Otherwise, if there is only one, there is no reference, there is no possibility to get the hold of itself to even be self-aware. The consciousness or awareness is completely unconscious or unaware unless there is the other. So, but those are only conceptual answers to just shut down the curious mind, because ultimately it's a mystery. This is what is, and it is this way because it isn't otherwise. So why yes, why not?
And realise it's all appearance, it's all Maya or illusion, a phenomenal manifestation. That's what I tell you. Look up your dictionary definition of phenomena. The definition of that which appears to be. So you and I are just appearances, seemingly solid and substantial, appearing in this particular pattern, shape and form which is here. There's other patterns appearing outside here. But it's all appearance, like shadow screens on the shadow forms on the screen of silence and stillness on the screen of emptiness. Shadow pictures. Now, what can you do with a shadow? Bloke would try to stamp on his shadow and killed it. He couldn't do it. Well, you see the shadows taking you. If it's behind you on a dark night and you walk on lights, it's chasing you. What happens if it catches up to you? And realise that it's transient, it's constant change. There's nothing static anywhere. Can you find a static point in that body? You can say, well, this is where it begins, this is where it ends. How can you when you don't remember your birth? You can't say the time. You might have it down in writing, but you know what's true or not, you don't. So there's nothing static. Everything has changed. So the body you walked into this room with has changed. The conceptual ideas in your head have probably changed now. Your likes and your dislikes. Your fears, your unhappiness, your guilt is changing. Evanescent appearances on the emptiness.
So if you accept as is, as you're saying, then there's no need to meditate, to keep the thoughts at bay, no need to learn any of that.
No. If we recognise it, it's there straight away. And it can be recognised straight away. Nothing to be, nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to see. But it unfolds of itself. Still seeing, still hearing, still tasting, touching, smelling. And as I say, it's transient. It's the seeing, the same seeing is there, but the content changes. Same hearing is there, the content changes.
I suppose that's why we like reading novels, because we get to see the whole thing just happening, and we sit in the armchair, and there's a whole life, or the rich experience of a beautiful life, or just
Yeah.
we just like aren't obliged to do anything. Pure reception.
That's I remember Nisargadatta said, you know, actions happen, speaking happens, I am unconcerned.
Yeah, he did. That's a good one. It's one chapter I did get to in this book.
What's bringing you here?
Well, I was living with Padma for a bit, and she told me, and then Auntie came along, to stay in the same house, and he said he was going to see Sarah Bob, and they all started telling me about you. And I was curious to
So there was a curiosity there, a movement there to pull you to look at this stuff. Now you're hearing it and might like it or dislike it, who knows, it might keep you coming back.
Well, it actually reminds me of something that I read many years ago called The Course in Miracles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kat can tell you all about that.
Yeah, I lived in spiritual community of Course in Miracles. It was absolutely wonderful.
And so when you met Bob, did you see a lot of similarities?
Yeah,
In what he's
actually the
saying.
guy that I met in Course in Miracles brought me to Melbourne and brought me to Bob.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah.
I only read the first 4 pages, because as I was reading the first 4 pages, this was in another country, I got a I picked it up, the book. I only got through the first 4 pages, and I was looking at that. She talks about a cup not being real, an object, and it's not real.
Yeah.
And I got a visitation from a dear friend of mine who died while I was reading those 4 pages in the room. I didn't see her, but I heard her. And she came to tell me that my father was about to die in a few days' time, which happened. But this was while I was reading The Course in Miracles.
Well, there you go.
And at that time, when I was just learning, it was talking about nothing being real.
Yeah.
Enters this spirit, and it was a vibration. Yeah.
Well, it's got you.
Sorry?
It's got you. It'll take you where you got to go.
Yeah.
So just relax into it and let it. Without struggling, kicking and fighting.
I've always struggled, kicked and fighting.
Yeah.
So I thought something different would be good.
Yeah, most of us have.
Yeah. I'm more than most, I think. Because I was exceptionally rebellious as well. So.
I did it for 16 years till I got to Nisargadatta, but it's taken me all through these different things all along the way. It started from when I didn't believe in anything, or one was totally crooked on the world and everybody, didn't believe in anything, didn't want to know anything. But it's forced me to look at things. I'm here mouthing it today and people are hearing it somehow or other, I don't know why. Maybe they recognise the truth. And the words come out. A lot of it's the same old, but you can't, in its simplicity, you can't get away from that. I can go into long stories, which a lot of people do, and keep people on the track for years and years. No. Nothing simpler than one.
But how do you relate to people, let's say within your family, who don't have this if you start to understand this concept, they have no understanding, how can you relate to them?
Well, I can relate to them, but once what they're saying, what they're throwing at each other and me, and what I was throwing at them doesn't take on so much anymore.
These were his hips.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, somehow or other, they sense that there's something here even though they don't want to know it. And they all look to me and ask me what's left of them. Come tell you that. So we get on with them all, where they're still fighting with each other over 60 or 70 years later. That isn't left.
Yeah, it makes life very simple and very effortless. Like if you don't think about yesterday and tomorrow too much, you only with what is at the moment, your quality of attention is much different. And things just kind of fall into place. And And you don't need to be with people who are on the same page with you. Like, I'm working with people who are completely not interested in it, and I wouldn't even offer them to look into it because they're perfect. I don't need to fix them or change them.
You can't force it on them anyway. Waste of time trying. Yeah.
I don't see them as deficient by not knowing non-duality. It's really,
No, everybody is that. Everybody, whether they know it or not.
Some people are so patently clear they're not, and others you can dribble stuff in and doesn't matter, and they go somewhere with it sometimes. But and then some, like, you know, it's so patently clear you can never. There's no point. Yeah.
If you don't ask a question, cat will throw you out. Sitting there going to sleep, you should have asked some questions. Show a bit of interest.
I just realised you live with 3 cats.
yeah.
Cat and cat.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, one cat's pretty articulate.
But I don't ask questions, Bob. It's been a while since you got a question from me. Unless it's a question, would you like the soup or curry?
You're pretty articulate, so you can express it all right, Janet.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
So if I give you a pat, will you purr?
Well,
Yeah, it's just noticing, because I can sometimes notice when, you know, not much thinking is, meaning making is happening, and then meaning making is coming in. But I was just noticing how I was thinking of at home, or was my situation at home, and I just didn't even see it come in, and it's just there, like, I'm sitting in this room with this stuff in this room, why is there a visual memory imagination of home, which is not here? And it just didn't even see it come in at all, and then I just, totally oblivious, but there it is, and it's sitting in the head while I'm in the room, and seeing a lot of just the stuff, hearing the sounds, whatever, and there's this image of home in there, and not reacting so much as I would have once to the sort of fears around the issue, but so, geez, I didn't even see that one come in or go or anything, but it's still alternating obviously so quickly with what's here.
It's the same as the sounds, you know? Like, you don't see the sound of the track that may be coming 5 minutes in time. It doesn't matter. But the content of thinking and the content of hearing, they're equivalent. So they're asking, oh, why would the track be passing? Oh, I didn't even see it coming. It doesn't, it's irrelevant. Same, you know, yes, the thoughts will be coming up because that's what the thought machine does. It throws thoughts.
I suppose it reveals a little bit about the mechanics, and sometimes the mechanics can be seen while things are disappearing.
Yeah, but if you will go and dive into analysing...
Oh, I don't do it that way. I don't hold on like that.
Good.
Yeah. I just throw it out there because sometimes someone has a wee gem. Or I don't know, I guess just clarified how...
Yeah, it works this way. It comes
things
up.
can just suddenly be there and there's no trace of it coming or going. It's amazing.
Totally, yeah. Just like sounds, just the same way. They appear just like the passing trams or passing cars or meowing cat.
When you're recognising that there's no thinker,
Yeah,
thoughts
definitely.
arise.
Definitely. This all seems pretty depersonal. But it's just funny.
So when you said the content changes, you mean perception?
Yeah. What you're seeing is constantly changing, isn't it?
It's content.
Well, that's a content. It's all content. But your eyes, you know,
Because you were
Seeing-
attaching a label to it.
seeing is
the
happening.
Sorry?
Seeing is happening. But you think the seeing is changing. The seeing hasn't changed. It's the one seeing that's there all the time, but the content is constantly changing. When you woke up this morning, you were seeing what was in your bedroom. When you moved out, you were seeing what you had for breakfast throughout the day. The same seeing has been going on all the time, the same hearing, but the content is constantly changing.
Is the seeing as like a capacity of seeing. So the capacity of seeing is there all the time. The space of seeing is all the time. But the objects are coming and going of
Right,
this.
okay, I see. Yeah, yeah, okay.
And same with thoughts. The capacity of thinking is there all the time.
Yeah.
And the different thoughts come and go, just like different objects when...
Yeah.
so you could say your world is all just a show, if you like. It's all content.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Content of the sensory experiences of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling.
Activity
Yeah.
rather than void.
Mm. And what Bob is also pointing, and that's important, the content and the one who witnesses the content are not two. This is just one. Like seeing is the whole capacity. If there was no me to see, or there was no objects to see, seeing wouldn't make sense. So me and the objects are all connected with seeing. They're all part of seeing. Seeing requires the little camera and something to be seen. So they're not separate, they're all one. It's only the mind that divides it. Okay, there is a seer and there is a seen. But they're not two.
And even the notion that it's an object, because apparently the first thing that turns up in the brain is in motion. There's no colour to it and there's no form to it. And the next thing that turns up in the mind is a form. And then the next thing that turns up is some colour. So it's not even like we're actually really perceiving little objects anyway. There's just a notion comes up that it's a bounded object with a name and at some point.
That's how seeing has been trained from early childhood. Like we don't even have language for things that Eskimos have language for snow. They see lots more for what they focus the attention and learned to see. So we trained, just like Course in Miracles says, I don't understand anything I see, the lesson number 1. And then now you look at something that is being, that your eyes rest, and you actually see what you know about it. You only see what you've learned about it. You look at the cup and you know that it's going to break when you drop it. You look at it and you know that it's going to hold water. You know that it's solid, it's not plastic. So you basically assume things. The moment your eyes rest on something, everything that you ever knew is included in that. The mind operates the vision. Otherwise you wouldn't know. And it's funny, even if you see something in the dark, the mind will give you an assumption. Oh, maybe that's a hanging coat. Or maybe there is some monster there under the bed. The mind will still constantly interpret whatever is there. But everything's fresh and new. It's just the way the computer is tuned to recognize things. Just like Facebook is tagging people because it has the face recognition thing. So this the same way mind operates everything. And yeah, that's the beauty of it. But when the algorithm is seen for what it is, it's just the algorithm, it's just the calculation going over that fresh and new, alive presence. Then it is seen the same way, but it's also different. It's fresh and new. It's seen for what it is. The overlay of thinking is just an overlay of thinking, and not the final truth or reality for which you're ready to die.
If you update the computer, suddenly there's a lot more objects in the room, Or, apparently medieval times they had a whole lot of conceptual meanings for certain social interactions that we don't even perceive. They're just gone out of the, still happening, but we don't know about them.
Well, they're thought up entities, weren't they?
No, they're just like, I don't know, there were phrases to mean something about how you
Yeah,
interact
but
with a
that's all
certain
conceptual,
person
isn't
at a
it?
certain way when they were doing the dishes or something like that. That just doesn't exist anymore. It's still happening.
Yeah.
We just don't even, it doesn't occur to us to define it. Yeah, like the snow,
So when you see a cup, what do you see?
I don't think about it. See, when we see, we usually attach the meaning to things. Like, oh, this is good, this is bad, or this is important, or this is not important. Like, everything has meaning, has a story in it.
But a cup.
Yeah, the cup has the story. It has to be half full or half empty, or it has to carry the water, or it has space inside, or it has to be particular color. It has
Never like that colour, or that aren't such and such.
or that's my
to me,
favorite, or that's it's a lot of story, a lot of tale attached to it. While if you get off the habit of overthinking constantly, if that chatter doesn't go on in the head, things are functional. So you're gonna still see the cup, you're gonna find yourself grabbing the cup, making a cup of tea, drinking, but the chatter doesn't go on. And if it does, then you know, that's just a chatter. So it's really, life becomes much more simple. Like you don't have that much of a judgment over everything and everyone.
Wow.
You don't have a story how things should be instead of how they are. And if you don't have the comparison that this moment should be different, I should be experiencing more pleasure, or I should be more rich or more healthy.
Yes.
And there is no comparison with what should be with what is. Then you're basically much more naturally tuned with what is and in love with what is, appreciative of what is.
And what is unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, just as it is in the moment.
And you don't need to fix it. You may still find yourself doing something better or different, but not because of the resistance, not because you hate what is, but because this is the natural functioning. It's like Bob is serving the cat, not because he thinks the cat is miserable, not because there's any thinking going on. It's just an activity.
What am I doing to the cat?
Serving. Opening the door, patting the cat. When cat is lying down on his legs at night and he wants to go to the bathroom, he spends extra 10 minutes to get out the way so the cat is not being disturbed.
I got it in for you, cat. You're gonna get it.
Yes, the editing a talk once of the layers. I just thought of it now. Just when every little muscle is relaxed, I just really like that thing, because I normally notice the muscles relaxing at the same time as a belief going. Yeah. Some belief goes as a wee blank for a bit and the muscle releases.
Yeah, there is
You still
a
have perfect
tension.
You still have perfect tension, and Alexander technique is this is whatever there is that's ready, the state of neutrality, ready to move wherever, but it's not thought tension, it's not, you know.
And especially the idea about me, that I am separate, I need to change, I need to do something with myself. I'm not good enough as I am. I'm inferior, or I'm incomplete, unfulfilled.
And don't you forget it.
Unfortunately, darling, that's completely forgotten. Yeah, and that's all your fault. I'm sorry. I'm not incomplete anymore. I'm nothing. How can I be incomplete? There is no sense of lack, or sense of void, or sense of anything that needs to be added or done or changed. Doesn't mean that I won't be learning new skills. I might do or might not. But it doesn't concern me. The sense of like low self-esteem or shyness or stuff that was there for many, many years is completely gone. It's just completely... And that was contraction, that was stress, that was keeping me tight.
Yes.
That was making me look at other people with hope that they won't reject me. I can't care less now if somebody doesn't like me or reject me. Oh yeah, well, bad luck for you, not for me. I don't care. So that tension, a lot of overthinking is bringing the constriction or resistance or some sort of tension in. But the I thought is the tightest one, because I'm like you say, vulnerable and insecure. So that insecurity, vulnerability, I need to add to myself. I need to make myself safe. I need to have people who appreciate me and tap my back so I feel I'm okay. I constantly need to reassure my position and my okayness. That's a hard work. And that's completely unnecessary, because it's based on the false assumption that I'm incomplete. And if that assumption falls away, there's nothing I need to do with this anymore. I mean, of course, it will tell me when it's hungry and I will give it a food, or it tells me when it's sleepy and I'll put it to bed. But it's really nothing that needs changed. And it will be changing, because everything constantly changes. But not because it's wrong as it is. As it is right now, It's just the way life wants to have it. Who am I to say this is wrong?
Yeah.
Who am I to say that God made a mistake and created this one in the wrong way? Like, I'm not arguing with life anymore. I may have preferences, yeah, other people may be richer or healthier or beautiful or whatever, but this is just a stupid thinking that I'm not going to buy into, because it doesn't really matter, it means nothing. And so it doesn't come up.
Because that's what it really is, it's just not coming up, you know.
Yeah,
Something
it's
that
not
would have come
coming
up in
up.
one moment isn't coming up in any of the moments since for so many years. Means nothing about the next moment, but it just hasn't come up.
Yeah, it's really not interesting anymore. Defining myself as whatever, good or bad or whatever, it's just not interesting, so it doesn't come up. It's just so many things that is happening in this immediacy that I wouldn't waste. I have no saying anyway. I have no saying, it just doesn't come up. But that waste of energy doesn't really happen. And that makes everything so much lighter. It's like tons of a heavy weight of re-identifying.
Oh, I want that.
It's
I want
lifted.
I
Yeah.
want that.
Oh boy, I want to
I want
change
that.
it. Yeah.
I love what Jeff
It's yours, take it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Try it on.
Yes,
Try
I
it
will.
on. Yeah.
Oh, let me get rid of the other bundle first.
Yeah.
That's
How
why-
does it feel to
That's
have
why
no...
she's spitting it out to someone to
That's
take it.
Yeah. How does it feel to be like nothing? Nisargadatta say, have the courage to be as nothing. Like, who can hurt you? Who can say anything? Yeah, you're invulnerable.
But you need humility, no?
What
Yeah,
for?
but
Has
some
humility.
You need
People-
humility.
What for?
people get the wrong idea on
Humility?
humility.
Yeah,
then-
explain it to me, please.
You can be,
Yeah.
you know, believe in your humility. You can be so
You can be proud of your
proud,
humility.
You can be proud of humility. But the true humility is that anyone who neither humble nor proud.
Humble, no proud.
Yeah.
How much more humble you can say than saying I'm nothing? It's like how much more humble you can get.
That's what I meant. You need humility.
But it's like, how can you argue with another person if you are the other person, you know? It'd just be like happening here, you know? And generally that's much more relaxed than you know, it's no point, it's just you.
Well, it's gone past 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you,
Thank
Bob. Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much.
Yes, as Jeff Foster says, what's the point of fighting something that's already been let in this morning? It's here, sorry, it's here, whatever it is. That's not joy.
Okay.
It's already-
You can wave back to Bill and Trevor. They're watching, and someone else. Yeah, a few people. Oh boy, yeah, quite a few people.
See you later.
Yeah, but we see
Yeah,
next
thank you guys
time.
for watching.
Yeah, every second Monday.
Monday,
this
I will
month.
see you then.
But
Yeah.
I might be doing the
Who's
new one, I
watching?
think this Thursday.
Yeah,
morning.
I'll read it for you,
Oh, okay.
everyone.
Is Bob going on his
It's
own
been really
YouTube
awesome.
channel or?